Hey, welcome to Clarksville Vibe the show, where we tell the stories about people here in Clarksville, Tennessee, who make this place the greatest place to live in America. I'm your host, Kevin Kennedy Jr., and I get the great privilege of talking to a lot of people from all over our community, people I've known for a long time, and some people I've just met, but people who make our community really special. And you found us in the middle of this series where we're talking about youth sports and specifically our local sports community. We've got some dynamic leaders and coaches, some mentors, great parents in our sports community, people who organize things and help our kids just grow up and reach the full potential that they have. Not going to say that there's no challenges that come along the way, but my goal in this is to introduce you to people who have been an inspiration to me, who have really challenged me and helped me grow, and who I know really, really love the kids and do it first and foremost for that, above their own ego, above their own success, above their own win-loss column. And my guest today is someone who I can firsthand tell you meets that criteria 100%. He is a winning coach in football. He has done it for a long time. He's a dear friend of mine, someone that I have counted on tremendously in the past. And I think he knows this, but I'm one of those. He can call me anytime and ask for anything kind of friends. And I feel the same way towards him. But Isaac Shelby, head coach of the football team at Clarksville High School, is our guest today. I'm really excited to get into his story a little bit and tell you why he has a passion for helping kids. And sometimes the kids that you wouldn't think, not just the star athletes, not just the ones who stuff the stats, but he's paying attention to every kid in his program. So we're going to hear really exciting things from him today. So Coach Shelby.
Appreciate the kind words, man. This place is beautiful. It's a really cool setup.
Yeah.
It's neat to be here.
Yeah. Well, it's, I appreciate you taking the time. We've known each other for almost a decade now.
Been a long time.
It's been a long time. And I feel like our audience needs to know before I had met you, one of the first things that somebody said to me was, go talk to Coach Shelby. No one in this town cares more about his players than Coach Shelby does. And I've seen you do that firsthand. And so thank you for the hundreds of lives that you've touched.
Well, that's a great compliment to whoever said that. So
yeah, I know it's 100% the truth. And the reality is you've been doing it long enough now where some of your players are now – they're teaching in our school system.
Yeah, they are.
They have real jobs.
They're
doing real stuff now, and not just playing on the field. And congrats to you. We're recording this November 2024. You've had another fantastic season. I always kind of follow you from a distance, and undefeated during the regular season, and made it to the playoffs again. And it seems like every year Clarksville High is almost guaranteed that playoff spot because you got them in the right place.
It's been a while. The kids worked really hard this year. We had a really good group of seniors. We've had that 2 years in a row. Hardworking guys that kind of bought into our culture. So, I think when you get guys like that and you have good staff and good support and good administration, good things happen.
Yeah. Well, it's really exciting. And so just resume building, you just, I reminded you that you were just kind of the all-time winningest coach at Clarksville High.
Yeah.
You said, I left Northeast and was the all-time winningest coach at Northeast. So a lot of great wisdom that comes from dealing with a lot of our different youth. But part of the reason why I wanted to do this series is because I feel like sports is such a testament to life. It prepares kids. And I've sat in rooms where you're talking to parents and you're explaining to them, hey, we want to win. We want to do things right. We want the kids to have fun. But my biggest job is getting them ready for the next season of life.
Yeah. When
in your coaching journey do you feel like that became a priority? Or when did you notice that you kind of have a gift of looking beyond the season?
I think that I've always kind of thought like that. I think it's important, just the bridge into adulthood. These kids need help, and sometimes they need the honest truth, but not just kids that we've had play college football. There was a kid I was talking to today who wants to go to TCAT and become a welder, so we're trying to, get our way through that. And, a lot of them are more mature now than you kind of give them credit for.
Yeah.
And they kind of see what they want to do. But I think if you can just get over that hump, because I think the times where I've had friends in high school in Clarksville, ex-players that I've coached in Clarksville, I think that the time that they get in trouble is when they kind of wander into adulthood, like that year after graduation where you don't really have a plan. You don't know what you're doing. You're kind of meandering through things, and that's kind of when you get caught up. You're hanging out with the wrong people, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, the opportunities you had are gone because you made one mistake or two mistakes or whatever. So just getting those guys, whether it's we've had a lot of successful guys go to the Army or go to the Navy, and do things like that. You don't have to play college football to be successful. We've had some guys do that. But one thing we did before COVID, which it was probably my favorite thing I've ever done, and then we had to cancel it because of COVID, but we're going to bring it back this offseason, is we had like a Career Tuesday thing.
Yeah.
And we brought different people in from different walks of life, different careers. It might be we had a house flipper, a guy that owned a bunch of fast food chains, just from different places. Kids don't understand that. They think it's, I'm going to go to the NFL or I'm, not successful or whatever. And that's not true at all. And we'll bring in people from the National Guard and from the Army and all the different service branches and just try to get the kids having some sort of plan when they leave. I feel like that's my job, is to make sure the bridge into adulthood is a navigable thing for them.
Yeah.
Just getting, the FAFSA filled out and all those things are hard, for an 18-year-old. They're hard for parents to do,
Absolutely.
Just making sure we're checking those boxes. I was talking to a kid today about, just going into boot camp, like if you can get out of high school and you can be in boot camp 3 weeks later, then you're in good shape. Like if you're one of those guys that, like him hauls around and doesn't get taken care of, and then you graduate high school and you go to boot camp in December, that's 6 months of stupid stuff that can happen, that you don't want to do. You just want to keep going and, kind of take your life forward instead of having that big pause after high school. I never understood that.
I know you've dealt with a lot of high school kids specifically, but how do you feel like sports plays a role in keeping them focused? Because, I remember my dad was not an athlete. Mm-hmm. He supported me fully to play baseball through high school. But I think if at any moment I'd have said, I'm not really doing this, I'm ready to go work, he would have been really excited, because his value for me was to work. But I know there's other kids, sports is their kind of centralizing focus, and it keeps them to get to the finish line.
Yeah, I think there's a million lessons you can learn. Like obviously you've been an athlete, like just the toughness, the perseverance, the time management, all those things you're gonna learn in high school. I think the other thing that it does is kids in our community, when you get in trouble, it's usually between 2:30 when you get out of school and 5 when mom gets home from work. You know what I mean? So just having that time where you're busy and you're accounted for and the adults are with you and you're teaching them lessons. I think that's really critical. But sports, you can't measure. It's not like a classroom where you get like an A or a B. Like you're constantly learning, you're constantly changing. You're learning leadership, you're learning followership. I think followership's like really undervalued. Not everybody can be a great leader, but even in your business, you have 20 some employees. You need some good followers.
That's right.
You need some people that can follow directions and do what they're told to do, and accomplish tasks at a set time, and all that stuff. You may learn more playing a sport than you actually do. It's bad to say, but in high school, what I mean? There's a lot of things that I use every day that I learned in high school. I don't remember like looking back on like reading The Crucible and really like pulling out like something that I use today.
Yeah, you don't remember the theme and the symbolism.
Yeah, it's something you got to do.
But you remember that lesson.
Yeah, you remember that lesson.
And you talked to me about you had the great opportunity to play under some great coaches in our local community and learn from some other coaches too. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about, kind of, and however much you're willing to share is good, but how much you're kind of growing up in this community and then playing sports here, your young coaching career, how did that influence how you've become the coach that you are?
I moved here right before my senior year of high school. I played for Bob Ateca. Our two main assistants at the time were Jeff Tomlinson, who's the coach at Dixon, and Jim Snyder, who's incredible coach. One of the best in Middle Tennessee, I think. Just a good guy. They were our two assistants, and I went off to Tennessee after that, and I went to UT for a couple years, and then kind of figured out that I wanted to coach, and it was back before all the other stuff. I just wrote Coach Snyder a letter in my dorm and just mailed it to school and said, hey, I
want to come back.
Basically, I want to come back and coach. This is my phone number. If that's available, then you let me know. And he called me, and I came back and went back and lived at home. with my dad and my sister, and was, you know, a volunteer assistant at Clarksville High for a while. But Coach Ateka was great. He's in Chattanooga now, just a good Christian man. Jim as well, Jeff as well too, you know. But those guys really took me in. They were, you know, they helped me. Brad Cooper is another one. Brian Johnson, who's, I think he might be like the director of schools.
You can't keep up with Brian Johnson.
No,
it's like you get a title and we're impressed, and then you just get a new title. And
it's crazy.
He'll probably be president of the United States.
He might be. Yeah. Steve Cordish, he was really good at Northeast. But all those guys, you know, especially the ones I started with, like Brad and Jeff, and Rocky Cobb was really good. And Coach Schneider, you know, I remember going to camp, and you know, we'd be sitting at Camp Nakomi, the church camp down there in Hickman County, and it'd be midnight, and we'd be watching the film on like a sheet on the side of the wall, you know, and I would think I'd have some great idea or something, and they'd let me talk for a minute, and then they just, that's enough. Like, you know what I mean? Sit there and listen. So I would, but they were always welcoming. They always answered questions, and I had a lot of questions back then. You know?
Sure.
But those guys were real critical in my development.
Yeah. You know, I know one of the things that you've mentioned before is like you really have a long patience with kids.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure you learned that from some of them too. But, you know, not giving up on kids either athletically or with their character or with their journey just to adulthood. You know, how much do you feel like that plays a role in shaping our community in the future? Because I know that you've got stories probably time and time again of the kid that's in 9th grade. You're dragging him to practice, and maybe, you know, he doesn't have the best situation at home, and you're just trying to get him to be eligible for 10th grade and just come on out for spring, and then, hey, let's sign up for this class in 11th grade.
They all move along at a different time, but I've never been able to give up on kids. I probably give kids too many chances, you know. I probably look like a fool sometimes because, you know, I'll give chance after chance after chance to 10 different kids. 9 of them will make me look stupid, and one of them will make it.
And that's the one that you keep.
The one making it. Every time I get one making, I'm like, I got to give this kid another chance, you know. And they just, I feel like you can't. Our job is to affect kids, and I can't affect kids if they're not there. So I got to keep them there somehow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's, you know, a lot of times that turns into a lot of punishments and a lot of after practice and a lot of this and that. But I really, really try not to get rid of a kid, because once you get rid of them, you know, it's just tough. I worked with a coach one time that he always said, like, you know, I don't want to listen, but he's like, you know, we got a really disciplined team. Like, well, no, you don't, because you just cut all the kids that didn't do everything that they were exactly supposed to do when they were supposed to do it. Right. So I don't know how, like, disciplined you were. You just got rid of all your problems. And, you know, and it turned – and honestly, every time you do that in a school, you know, it's a public school. Like, if I get rid of a kid and he was a problem in English class, that just got worse. Right. You know, and if he was a problem in math class, that just got worse.
There's no accountability now.
Yeah. And usually when you do that, you don't get kids that, you know, figure it out. You end up with a kid that doesn't figure it out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about football, because I know you're passionate about that too. You know, you've seen such a journey of really, really good teams, and you've had some great ones. You know, you had some really, really good teams at Northeast, and you've had some really good teams at Clarksville High. What do you think is it about our local community that, you know, that we do well to develop kids as football players, so that when they get to you, you've got a chance to compete?
I think we do well with propping up like the really successful ones, you know what I mean, like the Malcolm Perrys at Navy and Jalen at UT, and you know, some of those guys, like once they get out of here and they go do other things, like I think our community does a good job of being behind them. You know, there's some things obviously we have to work on, but I think that we do a good job of, you know, the whole community, not just Sango or St. B or Woodlawn or whatever. You know, we're extremely proud of the guys that make it out of here. And there's been some guys that have done great things from Clarksville.
What you know, if you had some advice to give to parents of young kids, let's say elementary school kids playing in the junior pro, whatever the league is, and, you know, their kid likes football, what would some lessons for parents be of like, you know, that you would say is the big picture of parenting, and what's a parent's role in that stage of growth for a young football player?
Yeah, I think that's changed a lot since since we had our daughter. I think my definition of a good coach has changed a little bit. It's if somebody cares about my daughter and she enjoys playing, and she wants to keep going back out there, at that age, that's a good coach. That's like as long as she keeps wanting to go, that's a good coach. And these people in the community, they're volunteering their time. Your role is to support it. We watch Junior Pro all the time on Saturdays, and I think sometimes people get too wrapped up in the score of it. Too wrapped up in the individuality of it. They're just out there to have fun. Like it's not time for that yet. Just keep them playing and keep them playing multiple things. I've always been against specialization and, that because we've talked about that before, but I think the parent's role is just get your kids there and cheer them on. And when they have a bad day, get them back out there the next day. And, keep them going. Just don't let them quit. Because once they start quitting things, especially at that age, they're just going to quit everything.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's so helpful to know because there is such a tug on parents. When you see your kid has some potential for success, you want to coach every detail. You do. And you want to draw out the highest levels of their potential. Right. Let's work for this. Let's do this. Oh, did you see that? Do you remember that play? And in reality, I don't know that the conversations in the car on the ride home that just ended, man, that was really fun to watch you play. I really enjoyed that. I'm excited about watching you play again next week. Is more empowering to a young athlete than but there was this 3rd and 6. You remember that? You just moved off and you let him take the edge. Those things can be sometimes defeating and really countercultural to what you would want for your kid.
Yeah, I think if you just play the negative on it all the time, the kid turns negative. I think there's obviously times where it's your kid and you want to correct something or whatever. You know what I mean? But I think you got to give them a lot of positives on what they're doing. I spoke to the junior pro coaches. We had before the season started, Ben Moore asked me and Coach Stanley and some of our staff to kind of show him some drills and some stuff like that. And one of the things that I told the junior pro coaches is, because you hear it you're on the sideline with the down markers and you kind of hear some of the nonsense or whatever. I told them stop questioning an 8-year-old's courage. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. I thought about that.
They're making movies about concussions. His mom doesn't want him to play. His grandma doesn't want him to play. His aunt doesn't want him to play. He's the least there. Don't question it. He's in this day and age. You're kind of courageous just being there.
Putting a helmet on.
Just being there. With everybody telling you it's too dangerous. It's too this. It's too that. Just don't do that. And that was one of the things that I told them. But I think parents just keep supporting them, keep giving them stuff to do, keeping them involved in everything, whether it's basketball or, whatever. Wrestling at a young age, I think is really, really good. Because you don't have a teammate you can lean on. I think multi-sport kids are the best ones to go. Especially, I see a lot of parents do this. Especially young parents, your son will be really, really good at football at a very, very young age, right? And then they'll be a so-so basketball player and not very good or whatever, but good enough to make the team, but not the best basketball player. And the first thing you do is you take and say, all right, well, we're going to focus on football. What I really think what you did was you just stole the adversity from the kid. You took the kid and you took away what he was not good at. And then you only focused on what he was already good at. And what you did was you stole all the adversity away from him having to fight through something. Wow. And, I think that a lot of times that's the best thing for a kid, especially learning to be a leader. And we try to get kids, we've had a bunch of basketball. I'm going back to the basketball game here in just a minute. But, if a kid's a great football player and he's the 4th guy off the bench in basketball, and he fights through that and deals with that, then when he comes back to football, he has some idea of what it was like for the other kids on the team that are not the best player.
That's a profound analogy.
Yeah, I really think that's important. And a lot of people just, if they're not great at it, they quit it. And I don't like that, because, you might be really good at football and you might never run into adversity.
Yeah.
Hardly, you know, but the basketball will teach you that,
The wrestling will teach you something.
Wrestling will teach you something, And then a lot of college coaches will come in and they'll say, "Is he coachable?" The recruiting kid, is he coachable? I don't know. I'm the only person that ever coached him.
Oh,
because he only plays football.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I can coach him.
I can coach him, but I don't know if he's actually coachable, because you may have a totally different style, And we have a lot of great coaches at our school, Ted Young's a great basketball coach. Brian Hedlund's a great baseball coach. We're not all the same. But if you play, like if you're Dawson Smith, like Derek's son, and you play football and basketball and baseball, you must be coachable, because all three of us are not the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah, that's a really good message, because it's hard athletically, but you forget about the development aspect of you're going to have multiple employers in your lifetime, and even if you become an employer, you're going to have multiple employees, and you get this coaching matrix of you take one, just like your journey, you take little bits from every step that you've had, and you add on that. The next kind of stage that we see, in our community is that middle school program. Yeah. And there's been some new energy, some new resources, organization. Johnny Miller from the school system is, from what I hear, done a great job. What excites you about that level of competition for yourself as the program leader of the high school, but also for the kids?
I mean, I think Johnny's doing a really good job. And it's not just football. He did get middle school football back in, so I think it's going to take a few years for us to see the fruit of that labor. But he's added some other sports. He's added cross country. He's added, I think, volleyball. He's added some of those, so it's not just basketball. And I just think it's different when I can see the difference when you're taking the exact same group of kids and you're watching the 7th grade Cowboys or whatever, or the 8th grade Cowboys, and it's not school affiliated. The grades aren't a big deal. You know what I mean? It's just glorified little league and all the stuff that goes with it. And then you take and you put it in the school the next year. It's the exact same people. It's teachers that are coaching, and your jerseys say the name of your school on the front of it. And all of a sudden, it got a lot more professional. Okay. Immediately. Yeah.
It's same people. It's just
same people. Yeah. Same people. Just having your school on your chest versus, the Vikings or whatever. Yes. It just got more professional. I just think it's going to take a couple years to see it, but I think Mr. Miller's doing a really, really good job on that. He's really being forward thinking. Yeah. He's not taking no for an answer. You know what I mean? Sure. He'll hear no and come back and, come up with a different plan. So I'm really excited about his leadership in the county for sure.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about, when players, I'm sure you're watching some of the middle school games. You might be there after a practice and stick around to see, and you see an 8th grade kid, that's a really big kid, or he may be able to help me one day. Yeah. And what's the summer when they finish 8th grade, but then they're getting into high school, to me, I remember as a parent, that was a really awkward time because one thing that I wasn't ready for was even communication. Communication in middle school, it tends to funnel to the parents. Practice is going to be you still got that little group chat with the parents. Then all of a sudden you get to be a freshman and I don't talk to you as a parent. I don't hear from you. There's not, parent emails necessarily anymore. It's going to the kid, and the kid has a responsibility to know when you're supposed to be somewhere, where you're supposed to be, what time, what to bring, what to wear, etc.
I think it goes back to just as a parent, I kind of go out of my way not to put parent communication out there, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We're trying to build young men, right? Well, young men have to come in and be employable, and we tell our kids this all the time. If you're sick or you're not feeling good or you're not going to be here or whatever, right? I don't want to hear from your mom. You call me, you know what I mean? Right. You text me, you do something like that, because we're trying to build employable people. I don't want to hear, if you're still in high school and you're working down the street at Domino's Pizza and you're not feeling good and you're not going to your shift, you don't go in there and say, hey, Mom, can you call my boss and tell him I'm sick? Like,
Right.
It doesn't work like that. You got to suck it up and make that call or do whatever. So, I mean, it's definitely a big difference, but we go out of our way to try to put that on the kid. Like, the kid has to figure that out at some point, you know? And I think that's, I think that's just a good learning tool.
Yeah, absolutely. You've had some special players. You mentioned, Jalen Reeves-Maven played for you. I know that there's a really special personal relationship there.
Yeah.
Did you coach him from freshman year all the way through
did.
it? Okay.
Yep.
And so, for those of us who have followed kind of Clarksville community football scene and then maybe watched him at Tennessee and then, he has had a very successful NFL career. What was it that really made him different?
Incredibly mature at a young age. And I know his dad is paralyzed. He's in a wheelchair. And I think that made him mature at a really, really young age. Competitive, very, very competitive. In terms of everything, he wasn't one of those guys that, like, he was never last to get dressed out. He wasn't last to do anything. Like, he always wanted to be first. He's competitive, he's mature, and he's really, really intelligent. Just a very, very smart guy. In smart and, more than just football. Just very, very intelligent guy. Really, really hard worker. We're blessed. I know that me and my wife are godparents of his daughter. And that's probably the biggest achievement I think I've ever had as a high school coach. You know what I mean? We were sitting at I want to say it was the Georgia game. I think it was the Georgia game. And I was trying to get back home because it was really late. We were driving back home to Clarksville. And they kept saying, hey, wait. Like, we need to talk to you. We need to talk to you. I'm like, come on, man. I got to drive 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Like, you're walking, 3 minutes back to your dorm or whatever. And, they asked us that, and my wife just burst into tears. You know what I mean? It was really cool. But just a really good guy, And you talk about parents with him. Like, he's got incredible parents. Like, his mom, LaDawn, like, she's a wonderful lady. She let him handle his own business. And she let him handle his own business from a very, very young age. And he was, and that's what made him mature. He didn't have people running around cleaning up his messes and all that other stuff. And then his dad actually played basketball at Louisville for Denny Crum. He was a great player at Northwest High School during the Marcus and Sean and Trenton during that whole era, the heyday of Clarksville basketball, And he called me every year Jalen was in high school. He called me once a year. And not one time did he ever mention football. Ever. Wow. He asked me, Coach, who's my son hanging out with? Like, what are his habits like? Who are his friends? You know what I mean? Is he being respectful? To this day, I mean, he's been 8 years in the NFL. I've never talked to Marcus one time about football.
Wow.
Ever.
I think that is, like, those are the nuggets that I really want parents to hear.
Yeah.
And I say this not because I'm an authority on it, because I'm living it. I've got a 9-year-old and 7-year-old at home, and we're just kind of on this on-ramp into the sports of how serious are we going to take it? How much are we going to do the coaching? How involved is our schedule going to be revolving around them as they figure out what they like? And I think it's such a gut check for high-achieving parents to hear that the Marcus Mavens of the world, who had a son with all the talent, like his first and foremost concern was the thing that parents are first and foremost concerned about, the character, the work ethic, the things like that. When I said what makes Jalen special, you didn't mention his athleticism.
No.
You didn't mention, his uncanny ability to tackle below the hip, whatever it was. Nothing was football.
None of that stuff.
Yeah, it was determination, responsibility, being able to overcome adversity, being very responsible. And I think that's just an encouragement to me, because I said on a previous episode, much of these episodes are kind of my own therapy and kind of redirecting my energy as a parent. But it's like, if I can leave the game and enjoy watching you play and you want to play again, and I can coach character, then maybe I'm doing the right thing. And I certainly don't think my genes are going to produce Jalen Reeves-Maven at all. But I would love to see my daughter play high school volleyball or high school basketball.
Yeah.
And so I want to give her the opportunity, but at the same time, I care much more about what happens after that and who she is beyond that.
I think if you take care of all that other stuff, then the athletics part will just take care of itself.
Yeah.
You know, I just, but I'll be honest with you, and Jalen may agree or disagree. If you're talking about athletic, like run, jump, power, explode, like I've coached 7 or 8 kids in Clarksville more athletic than Jalen. He just refused to be. He just refused to be denied, and he would work through tough stuff. And he's just he's mentally tough. He's physically tough, but he had great parents. They didn't get in the way. You know, and even
if I remember correctly, you said you had to bench him at some point.
I did bench him. I started him as a freshman at quarterback. We were playing Sycamore. It was his first game, and he threw 5 interceptions against Sycamore. And I benched him, and he didn't play at all the rest of his freshman year until another kid named Jarrell Allen, who played at Bethel. He was kind of our other quarterback, and I think about it a lot now when I'm dealing with young quarterbacks because of that stuff, because of me pushing him before he was fully ready. I think I burned him his sophomore year. I think his sophomore year he was trying not to lose the game.
Yeah.
And it took a year and a half or so to get in his junior year. He blew up. But he was trying to win the game then. You know. But I think I hurt his confidence really bad when he was a freshman. I did bench him, and he came back in. The next play he played, we were playing Beach in the playoffs in the second round. And something happened to Jarrell, like his helmet came off or something, and it happened to be like 3rd and 12 or something. And he had not played for 9 games, you know. And we bring him in on like 3rd and 12, and he just throws a dot for a first down. And I was like, all right, we got a ball player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
It was cold. It was one of those, you know, November nights, and he just trots off and just throws a dot, you know. Then we knew we had a ball player then.
That's awesome. Well, I know you kind of had the highlights of these big names that have kind of come through and had all the success. But I know that your stories of development with some of the players who we will never know their names, you know, is what is really special to you. I think if you had to, you know, if you had some athletes, some younger kids that were listening and you kind of had to say, hey, at the end of the day, this is what you're going to find to be most successful, because now you've got 25, 30-year-olds coming back to you as former players, right? And they tell you the stories of what was special about high school football to them. Like, what would you say to a younger athlete of like, at the end of the day, this is what matters most?
I think, man, turn your phone off.
Interesting.
You know, turn your phone off. Like, I think it messes with a lot of kids, you know, like they're so social media driven and they're, you know, this offer this and this offer that, and they get tied up in that, or, you know, this ranking or all that stuff. And it just doesn't compute. Like it's, you know, your job is to get better every single day, and the rest of that stuff will take care of itself at the end. Like I think social media, I mean, we know it, like we deal with it. We both have it. Like, you know, even when you look at as adults, you know, you look at social media and, you know, I'm looking at you and you're going on vacation to the, you know, wherever. And I'm like, oh man, I can't go on vacation. You know what I mean? Like, you know, people don't
look at you. Your kids look like they behave well on a picture.
You
you know, look at you. Oh, you got that car. It's amazing.
And it for kids, it's even worse. You know, it's there every day, and it makes them think they're not being successful at stuff when they are being successful at stuff. You know, because you know, they're looking at that. I think you just put your nose down and you play and you work. You know, and then the other thing too, that this kind of going back, we talk to our kids about this all the time. Like, everyone says like you play football, right? Like, don't forget that. Like you're playing.
It's playing. It's fun.
You're not working football.
Yeah.
You're not working basketball. You're playing. Like, just play.
Yeah.
Like, and let the rest of the stuff take care of itself in the end. You know, there's too many kids at way too young age working football, working baseball or, you know, working whatever game, you know, they're playing.
When do you feel like that shift can happen where working the craft, like the kid decides, hey, I want to work at this now because yes, I'm having fun, but at the same time, I want to see myself improve.
In terms of like going into one sport, or
no, even just changing their own mindset of like, oh, I'm just playing all these things to have fun, to now instead of parents pushing them as a second grader of like, hey, we're going to work every, you know, on Sunday afternoon, we're in the driveway doing this. But, you know, when does a kid naturally take that on?
I think when you're in high school, it becomes time to like work during practice, you know, and really kind of focus your mind on what you're doing. But still, at the end of the day, Friday is about playing. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, you have to work through some Tuesdays, and football is different because you only play once a week, right? So, like, if you play bad in baseball, you just turn around and play the next day. So you play every day; it doesn't really matter, you know. Football, you gotta, you know, there's 7 days between every one of them. So some of those days, it becomes tough. I know that we've taken the pedal like way off the gas recently in terms of some of the things we did in the off season and some of the things we did in the summer, because I felt I don't want the kids burnt out. Like I want them still excited, like late in the season, you know? So, you know, we've kind of evolved as a coaching staff on that.
Yeah. Well, that's with anything, any leader is going to change over time. Yeah. But I, you know, really, I'm going to internalize that aspect of play and just kind of, you know, focus on that. Well, as a dad of daughters, you also have this like, you know, girls flag football scene that's kind of becoming new. Coach Stanley is, I think that is he the head?
He's the head coach
there, but you guys are kind of involved. Yeah, it's fine. Flip the roles there.
Yeah.
How's that been? Because, you know, I would say coaching wise, it's probably a different sport in the sense of like, you know, how do you put your puzzle pieces in the right place? And it's a different, I would think it's a fun way to coach because you're kind of starting from scratch with some kids.
It is for sure. It's a different game. It's people kind of compare it to 7-on-7, but it's not. Like the rules are different. Like the field dimensions are different. It's really neat to see girls from other sports come out. Like I know one of our best players a couple years ago was Becca Allen, who I think she's graduating high school early to go play soccer at Ole Miss. Like she was really good. Hadley Haywood is our quarterback. She's really good. She's like a dancer, you know, but she will run straight at you and like spin right before and you can't get her flags.
That's awesome.
She's a really good player, but I enjoy it because you know, I have a daughter too, so Lucy enjoys coming to practice and she likes throwing the ball around with the girls and other stuff like that. But it's fun. The numbers are through the roof. Like we almost, and it kind of goes back to like don't give up on anybody. Like we almost had to cut last year and like make 2 teams. Like there were so many girls that wanted to play, which is kind of shocking to me at first. And Coach Stanley, you know, we go. I think the first day we had. Like, we put up some flyers in the school on the poles. It was like flag football practice. Yeah. Nobody knew what was going on. And we'd go outside, and there's like 50 girls. And we're like, oh, man, like, the little plan we had is not going to work. It's not going to work. These lines are going to be like 30 people deep. But it's fun. It's kind of relaxing to coach a different batch of kids. Like, sometimes, like, you know, I'll have to like catch myself because like I want to say something, and then I realize like, all right, like these are different kids. Athletes. Like your girls like have feelings, like you know what I mean. I can't be quite as abrupt as I normally am, so there's some times where I have to like pause and then like rethink what I'm saying. But yeah, it's fun. Like you know, I really enjoy it because my daughter enjoys it.
Well, I'm hoping that we get some opportunities to be able to play before high school.
It's coming, Okay. It's coming.
That's
I think.
Good. You know, Jen Garinger, if I can ever nail her down, I'd love to do an episode with her.
She's really good.
You know, she made volleyball a thing. Mm-hmm. Her and Kelly Guth. Kelly made soccer, organized soccer, a really powerful thing in our community. And volleyball, when we were in high school, you didn't play. The girls didn't play until they got to 9th grade. Right. It's like you roll out the ball, and here's the rules, and you can become a Division I college player in 4 years if you had to. And now, if you're not playing in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you know, you're behind the skill development. I mean, we're not going to give up on you, but you know, those opportunities start earlier and earlier. And I would love to see. I kind of, obviously love to watch traditional football, but I would, like to see some girls have some more opportunities.
Well, come out to a couple games, but I'll tell you one thing: it's a cheap sport. Like you already have the field. Yeah. Like you need some balls, you need some flags, you need some adults. Yeah. And the kids are running around doing stuff. Yeah. Milan Smith, she plays for us. She's basketball. Yeah. She's really good too. Yeah, she's really good. So
Milan Smith, she's a character. I've known her since she was a real young girl. Her aunt and I are really good friends. And so it's been fun to watch her grow up into this basketball player, this young girl. Has she graduated yet?
No,
she's senior this year.
She's senior this year.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Coach Shelby, man, thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, man.
Really fun. But first and foremost, thank you for your commitment to the kids. Yeah. I will probably get to interact with your flag football players at some point when they become adults. Yeah. And your football players are going to be dads of kids that come into my practice, and they'll be plumbers that come and fix something for us, and they'll own a restaurant that we go enjoy. And, we forget the tentacles that we put out into our community that really have such a dynamic impact as time goes on. And, as we're, kind of closing, I know that your commitment level exceeds what your salary, your stipend or whatever. And you do really care about the kids. I called you one time on a Sunday at like 1:00 and I said, I need help. Yeah. I don't know what to do. You said, well, just come on up here, bring him up here. Yeah. I think you walked around the field a few times, got back into the clubhouse and you said, it's good, man. It's all good. And I said, well, what happened? I need details. He's like, just trust me. It's good. We're good. And then it was.
Well, it's a whole community put together. We can't be successful without you. We can't be successful without, the businesses in our community. You gotta have community support, you gotta have administration support in your school. Yeah. Pride in your community to have a good football program. That we're gonna keep building on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, if you made it to the end of this episode, thank you so much. I hope you learned something. You got to hear some great stories from Coach Shelby's coaching career and where he's had success in the past and obviously going to have lots of success in the future. Make sure to take some of those tips you learned as a parent, or if you're a grandparent, aunt, uncle, pass those along as we support our young athletes, growing up and accomplishing all the things that we want them to be. Most importantly, with their character and their work ethic and the determination, those things are going to make them great members of our community in the future. Well, hey, we'll catch you on the next episode. See you then.